So I would say that with that remark and with some other things that I said to some of my boyhood friends at about that same period, 1763, that's when I began to realize that we should no longer think of ourselves as colonists to some distant monarch. We should instead think of ourselves as a separate people in a new land. Remember this too, my friends. There have been a number of travelers I have met of late who labor under a very grave misapprehension, that being that the greatest number of Americans in this year, 1774, and you may use that term Americans. It is widely and frequently used, and has been already for generations. But the notion is that we were all of us born in England and then emigrated hither during our lifetime. That is not the case by far measure. It is now reckoned that 9 out of every 10 Americans are native born. That includes our Negroes. We're no longer importing these outlandish Africans here to Virginia. Native born, 90%. My mother's side of the family, the Winstons, have been here in Virginia for well more than 100 years already. They came in 1659, which was the time of a great emigration of Scott and Irish, especially here to Virginia. What I'm suggesting to you, sir, is that in the minds of those of us from the backwoods, the back country, we've already seen well established a unique American identity all our own. That more and more often we're starting to think of ourselves as Virginians or as Americans before we think of ourselves as British subjects. I reaffirm that later this year at the first Congress in this year, 1774. When here it is the first day, the 5th of September, 1774, rather awkward, frankly, because, friends, we've never met each other, these different colonies. We've never met these men. We might have received word from them by way of newspapers or committees of correspondence, but here we all are, different interests, different religions, different everything. Rather awkward. Finally, someone puts up his hand and says, well, gentlemen, we've come all this way to Philadelphia. I suppose we ought to accomplish something. How, for example, are we going to arrive at decisions? Do we vote? And if we do vote, do we all have equal voice? Or should we be represented by population, for example, that Virginia have greater influence than Rhode Island, let's say? And right from the beginning, that's when the bickering and the squabbling starts. I'm sitting there, growing increasingly frustrated that they're losing the whole point of our being there. That is to speak with one collective voice, and thus to wield a very formidable sword. So finally, I raise my hand, desire to be recognized, take to the floor, and I say, gentlemen, government is dissolved. Fleets and armies come to our shores, clear evidence that a crisis is at hand. At this time of crisis, therefore, the distinction between Virginians, Pennsylvanians, New Yorkers, and New Englanders is no more. I am not a Virginian. I am an American. Good sentiments, perhaps, for 200 years from now, should we be engaged in another struggle for liberty. Gentlemen and ladies, I've been informed 'tis well past time for me to have taken my leave, but I will linger a while longer below, just here in the event that any of you might wish to stand with me for a quick sketch or a rendering. I remind you, too, that at 3:30 today at the Capitol building, Lord Dunmore is going to offer forth whatever pronouncement he has to make. I'll be there, too, and expect I might have something to say in reply. I thank you for your kind attention. God save you, the rights and liberties of America, and the fighting men in the field.